Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelly Stevens.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Private Practice Pro podcast. I'm so excited to have one of my oldest friends. I think we've known each other, 12 years or something, 10 or 12 years. Jessica Vickers. And Jess, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. Maybe you go by Jessica professionally. Do you go by Jessica?
Jessica, Jess, you knew me as Jessica Cyrus back in the day. Now, what actually happened is I got licensed. Hi, thank you for having me. I got it's so funny. No, I got licensed like literally a month before I got married. So then my
really?
my MFT license came as Jessica Cyrus. I hung it up. I was all proud, and then changed my last name to Vickers.
Did you actually? How does that I didn't change my last name when I got married, but how does that process work when you get married? Do you have to change? Do you write them, or what do you do?
This was 8 years ago. I used this company that just took care of it for you. I forget what the name of it was. Sorry. But it was like a cute little name for this app that just did it for you. And you send forms. I mean, it's a process. You send forms to your bank, you send forms to the BBS, right. And then the BBS just changed my name. So now if you look me up, Jessica Vickers, MFT, you'll see Jessica Vickers and Jessica Cyrus. So anyways, you knew me in grad school as Jessica Cyrus. And that was 10, 12 years ago.
It was, I know, in my mind, it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Because I feel like we also kind of walked through the pre-licensure journey toward licensure together. But still, it's it definitely does not feel like a decade ago or more.
I know. But then when we actually talk about the nitty gritty of so we went to grad school for 2 years, which I loved. I loved grad school. I thought that was such a fun time. And it was so nice to be, there full time in person bonding, making lifetime friends and colleagues. But we were just talking about it. You graduate, you are working so hard to get those 3,000 hours, you're paid nothing, and you're just hustling, and then I got my hours really, really quick. I worked at a treatment center full time. I was like, let me just knock this out, which I would totally recommend for people to do if you're willing to just grind out for a couple years.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And, okay, so before we get any further, I want to give people context with who you are.
Yes.
So just give us your spiel today. Where do you work? You're in private practice. Give us all of that. And then we're going to go back to pre-licensure. But before
I got ahead of myself.
It's good. I'm ready. I mean, we could talk for 3 hours. So, I'm ready to just tell people who are just tuning in, where's your office? What do you do? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm Jessica Vickers. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I also got certified in perinatal mental health counseling. So I'm a PMHC as well. I live in Orange County. I have a fully virtual private practice, and I do private practice part-time. I do a little bit of EAP work on the side as well as a contractor, which is a really nice balance. And then I also balance that with motherhood. So I'm working very part-time virtually. I love that. I can connect with clients all over the state. I have clients literally from San Diego to San Francisco, Oakland.
Great.
And I'm working mostly with the perinatal mental health population. I see a lot of just women as well who don't want kids or haven't gotten there yet. And they're just, we're working on career stuff, relationship stuff, racial, identity issues, trauma. So I really am happy with my part-time private practice right now.
So give us kind of a snapshot into what your week looks like because like everyone's version of part-time is different. So how do you kind of balance your schedule?
That's a great question. So when I basically work 2 full days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have childcare and I can really just focus and be present and stack my clients, whether it's the private practice or a little bit of EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program. So that's really cool. Like there's a really big company here in Anaheim that contracts and provides free therapy to their cast members, employees. So
here in
I work
Anaheim,
for Disneyland. Here in Anaheim, I work at Disneyland, and it's fun. But my private practice is so special and sacred to me. So I only see about, I would say, 8 clients a week in my private practice on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. And occasionally I do about 1 evening a week, which I love. I love that Mondays at 5 and 6, I see clients. Husband takes the kids to dinner or to the park and grabs food. And it's a perfect balance. I'm really happy with that.
I'm all about the husband bedtime situation. I mean,
yes.
I feel like a lot of people will ask me, like, do you have to work evenings in private practice? And currently, actually, I don't. But but I'm like, if you do have somebody else, another caregiver in your home, it can be kind of nice working evenings because then you're not like the default parent in that situation.
Yes.
But everyone's situation is different. But right now, I feel like, I could see a 6. That'd be good.
Yeah, and Monday I'm home with my little one most of the day, all day, and so it's nice to at 5 o'clock switch it up, go see some clients. Walk upstairs to see clients and get that break.
Right.
And you don't have to do evenings. I find 1, maybe 2 evenings a week to be perfect. But and I'm sure you've talked about this. Like if you tell people, hey, I am available Tuesdays, I have a 10 a.m., an 11 a.m., and a 2 p.m.
Right.
They will make it work. And luckily now a lot of employers are more lenient with, okay, yes, you can take an early lunch break. And again, that's the benefit of virtual for me is a client can literally go to a secure place, hop in their car, or if they work from home, they just close the door. And they don't have to like drive to an office on their lunch break or whatnot. So that's a benefit for me and the client in this virtual world. And people are much more flexible and lenient with, I can see my therapist at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like I'm not going to be penalized for that, or it doesn't have to be at 6 p.m.
Yeah, I find that too. I haven't provided evening appointments in almost a year. And I haven't had any trouble, even with my teenage clients. I haven't had any trouble finding slots for them, which is always shocking because prior to COVID, all my teenage clients wanted to come in, at 3 o'clock or something. 4 o'clock was like prime time, But yeah, that makes sense. So, okay, so now let's go back. Now that we did that and we know who you are, because I could just talk to you like I know you.
I know.
So we met in graduate school. We both went to Pepperdine.
Loved it.
And then we also, I think, worked for some similar treatment centers after graduation. And then we lived a block apart from each other, right?
Santa Monica.
In Santa Monica, where I feel like a lot of our friends lived in this like one little neighborhood,
Yes, that was fun. That was special.
We were all like commuting to Malibu or other places. And then you eventually moved, right? Did you move to San Francisco?
Yes. So that was an interesting, really lucky, really cool, really unexpected experience. My husband's in tech. And so, which is also a really nice balance, just that he kind of does have that really flexible, cushy Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 and in a different field. So we have a lot to talk about at the end of the day. But he got a job offer for up in San Francisco for a tech company. And I told my treatment center at the time, I had just gotten licensed. We just got married. He just got this job offer. So I was like, look, I'm licensed. I was probably going to be leaving anyways. And now we're moving. So I definitely have to leave. And they said, wait a minute, do you want to open a treatment center for us up in the Bay?
I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I can't say no to that. So I got to go house hunting for this gorgeous mansion all summer. And I didn't have to look for a new job. You know, it's already so stressful trying to pay off the student loans and being newly
Right.
married and then moving, like to then have to look for another job is chaos. So I accepted their
We should
offer.
probably clarify that the house hunting for a mansion was for the treatment
The
center.
treatment
and
center, not for myself.
Right,
Not for
right,
my
right.
25-year-old self, 26-year-old self.
Let's
at
be
the time.
clear.
Yes. Yeah, 26. So I went and I found this mansion for the treatment center. I became program director, and I quickly realized that, you know, I wasn't really doing as much therapy. I was doing the family groups on Saturdays and things like that. But I was doing a lot of hiring, a lot of firing. I was doing admin, paperwork. It's an important part of the treatment,
Yeah.
you know, facility, but it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. So eventually I left the treatment center for good, for real this time. I'm really leaving. And I joined this lovely group practice. So my first intro into private practice was through this group,
Right.
Wall Space in San Francisco. And I loved it. Like they're right on Market Street. It was this powerful group of women. It was really small when I started. And then, you know, as a group practice does, it grows. And I was just treated so well. I could pick my hours. I was working more evenings and maybe Saturdays then. I think, you know, when you're newer in the field, sometimes, you know, to gain clients or, you know, you want to fill in the gaps of the group practice. So if they already have, you know, 3 licensed clinicians working Monday through Thursday, like maybe you pick up some of the Fridays or some of the Saturdays. But I just loved it. It was such a unique, just like setup right there on Market Street in San Francisco. I was seeing a lot of young professionals and people in tech. And then I got pregnant, and
That's what I was going to ask you was when, because like kind of what I want to go back to what you said really fast of like filling in the gaps in the group practice. I think that's such good wisdom that when you get hired for a group practice, I personally think, especially prior to having your own kids, if you have a more flexibility, that can be a really strategic way to get referrals.
Exactly.
Right?
And why not work a Saturday if then, you know, you don't work Sundays or Mondays? And Monday is a great day to have off. You're going to the market, you're going to the gym, you know, you're doing all the things that aren't crowded. So for me, it wasn't any, you know, it wasn't a huge sacrifice to work Saturdays. And that's what the group needed. And that's what some professionals at the time needed. They didn't want to come in on a Wednesday at, you know, 1 o'clock.
Right.
So some clients do really want to see you on weekends. And I was happy to do that. It worked out. It was a win-win.
How did it work when you worked for the group practice too, in terms of, because you were already licensed, but you were working, I'm assuming, as like a W-2 or a 1099 therapist for a group, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think you used to be able to be a contractor. And I think now in California, you have to be a W-2 employee of a group practice. So at the time, you know, this was 6 years ago. I think I was a contractor, and, you know, you do a fee split. I was using their office, so I would give them a percentage of what I was making, but I got to set my own rates for myself.
Right.
So I set my rate, the client pays me, and then, you know, a percentage of that goes to the group owner for the space, for the fact that they're doing some of the marketing and advertising for me.
Right.
I loved also being part of a group because we would do regular case consultations. So you still get that like colleague, you know, group vibe where you feel supported and you know, getting that consultation is great.
Yeah, that's what I love the most. And about being in a group, number one. And I often recommend to people, like, if you want to try out working in private practice, but you're not ready to open your own practice yet, I think it can be so beneficial to work for a group. I mean, you just learn so much about running a business.
Yes. Yes. You learn so much. And it's great when the group owners, you know, kind of teach you about like marketing, or, you know, we would have like other therapists or psychiatrists or other professionals come in and do that whole like networking, saying, if here's something about us, tell us about you. It's really important. If I'm working with a client who's also meeting with a nutritionist, I want some of that wisdom from the nutritionist. So
I mean, and even just learning, like, I know we had the same thing in the group I was in, like a meeting, and then other professionals would come in, or we would go and even learning how to like speak in those meetings. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you remember like early on trying to convey like, this is who I am, this is what I do in the group, like we would always go around in a circle, like, here's what I do in the group and here's what and it was scary, I guess. I don't know. For me, it was.
Yes. Oh, 100%. I mean, my confidence back in the day was slim to none. I was so young. And also as a woman of color, I think there's that added layer of like imposter syndrome. I constantly question, like, do I really belong here? Am I just the diversity hire? Like, that's a really real thing that I was experiencing, back in grad school and in college, even in my sorority. Like, where do I fit? Like, in especially all of these predominantly white spaces I was in from my elementary school to present day in Orange County.
Right.
So, having people kind of support you along the way in those group spaces was really empowering and really helpful. And also for people to be like, you do belong. And also, like, being a Black woman is like a superpower that you should harness, because there are Black clients out there who want a therapist who gets them, who they don't, have to deal with that like potential added layer. So it really helped me come into my own.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. And I think you're right about the imposter syndrome piece. And I think it's a piece we don't talk. Like, I can so vividly remember my very first week in college. For some reason, like, everyone in this brunch I was at was talking about their SAT scores. And I remember, and I don't even remember anyone's SAT scores or anything, but this guy,
of course,
obviously like white, whatever, like male, coming from a privileged background, was like, the only reason you got in here to Carleton is because like you were the diversity, essentially.
Stop.
My very first week in college.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so like, I had been invited on this like student weekend that was meant to recruit students of diverse backgrounds to the school. So like, I had this added, I was already in college, I'd already enrolled, and I had this added layer of like, did I get accepted only because, and that followed me into grad school, and anyway, but I think it's important to name that piece, and in Southern California, like you said, even now in Orange County, I would imagine that you have some of that.
Orange County is like 2% or 4% Black. So,
and you grew up in, right? Didn't you grow up where you live
here? I grew up here, yeah, and that's why we moved back. To be near family. We have kids, and I'm near my sister and my mom and my in-laws, and it's great. But it's something that I navigate. And today, my private practice is predominantly women of color. Whether they're Black or Latinx or Asian American, they really deserve a therapist who can just understand. And my background as a Black woman is going to be different than someone else who has a Black parent, or but it's comforting. And I really get it when my clients come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, like, did I get this job, because I'm the diversity hire, or did I really earn it? Or is it like a combination, right? Like, yes, I am a Black woman. That's how I show up. I can't not show up that way.
Right.
And I have the credentials, I have the skills, I have the personality, so it's like, it's hard. It's a hard thing to navigate.
Hey, therapists. Are you listening to the show and thinking, I really want to launch my own private practice, but I have no idea where to start? Make sure to check out Kelly's Private Practice Roadmap course. In the course, Kelly gives you the exact steps you need to open your own thriving practice. You can find the link below in the show notes.
And I totally cut you off when we were in San Francisco, and you had just found out you were pregnant.
For anyone out there listening while driving, if you're getting whiplash, like just take a deep breath and thank you for being on this journey with us.
Right.
Because now we're back in San Francisco.
Anyone who listens to this podcast knows I have ADHD, and certainly Jess, I'm sure, has known me for a very long time, and I'm all over the place. But like, that's how this podcast is. Okay,
There's so much to say.
There's so much to say. And, we've even talked over so many different parts of this. But so you find out you're pregnant, you're working for the group practice at this time, right? So how does pregnancy change the whole thing or the game, or does it not, or what happens?
Yes. So this was the plan. I'm a Virgo, I'm a type A, I'm a firstborn. Like all of those things have led me to living my life by a pretty rigid, I as a person like to think that I'm flexible, but I've had this like life plan that's been pretty rigid. And I've been, God, the universe, Mother Nature, whatever, like something has blessed me to actually follow the plan mostly,
right.
Can't be perfect, but I wanted to get pregnant and come back to Orange County. So I told the group practice, stop giving me new clients. I'm going to start phasing out, obviously, within a couple months. And 7 months pregnant, I moved back. We came back down. So we took a pit stop in LA. My husband just transferred from the San Francisco branch of his company to the LA branch. And then he got a job in Orange County. So,
oh my gosh! So wait, how long were you back in? Because I think I remember this. So
yeah, I was in Playa for like
a year.
I was in Playa for like 3 months, girl.
Yeah, I don't even know that I saw you. I remember like that you moved, and I remember hearing that you moved, and then like life was really busy then. So then I remember,
and then I had a baby, and then I moved again. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? Something that I want to share, I wasn't expecting to share this, but like no shame in this game. Like I was babysitting and walking dogs like in this interim period. And even when I was really new at the group practice and I only had like 3, 4, 5 clients a week, like I needed to make more money. Like I wanted to pay off my student loans. I wanted to pay for my San Francisco rent. I wanted to save up for this baby that was coming. So I would babysit, I would walk dogs. Like there's no shame in like, if you need to go and get a barista job on the side, you don't want it to take away from your goal, of spending time on marketing and building your practice. But sometimes you just need a little added income. So I got pregnant in San Francisco, left the group practice, went to Playa del Rey, walked dogs, babysat, nested, had this baby. Then baby is 3 weeks old. We moved to Orange County. Because my husband,
God,
because my husband got the job in Irvine.
Oh my God. I mean, so first of all, for what you said about side hustles, I could not agree more. Okay.
Yes.
Like I got a email from somebody recently that said basically like they were working at Starbucks while starting their private practice and they felt really ashamed of that. Like if their clients saw them at Starbucks. And I said back to the person, like, the reason you're going to be successful is because you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
Like I see so many therapists who are like, I'll only take on therapy roles. And most of the successful therapists I know, like you, for example, like we worked at that treatment center. Like I remember cleaning the counters. I remember, like a lot of unglamorous things.
Yes.
And like having those side jobs, like often, especially during pre-licensure, those paid me more. Like I got paid more to be a tutor and a babysitter than I did in my pre-licensing job.
Same.
Which was, or a waitress. I was like freaking waitress for so long.
Some of our friends were bartending. Like you got to do what you got to do. And it shouldn't be like that. The cost of living, like we could go on and on, but you got to do what you got to do. There's no shame in that. And at the end of the day, if you have this goal and you're working towards it slowly, in my case, slowly with some interruptions from the baby. So we moved to Irvine. And then, after a few months of being home with baby and everything, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back. So once again, I joined a group practice down here in Orange County to slowly get back into things. And then I have another baby and the group practice is great. Once again, weekly consultations, the group owner is this boss woman who's doing all the marketing for us. And she's just like a business pro. Now they're a massive group practice, and I refer to them all the time because they take all the insurances and everything. So that's great.
Amazing.
But after I have baby number 2, I'm like, okay, ready. I'm ready. I'm like in my 30s. I'm ready to go on my own. And I went on my own. I talked to you. I talked to a CPA. I got in a little consultation group, on the side.
How many months postpartum were you at this point?
2.
Yeah, I think I remember this. That's why
during my maternity leave, I was like, wait, this is the time. I'm not working. The baby sleeps half the time. I'm a pro because I already have, this is my second kid. My husband is amazing. We talked about how, it's necessary in today's world to have a really, really helpful hands-on partner. So, he would take the kids. I would work on building my business. I'd have my calls with my CPA and I got it set up. And again, being virtual is so nice. I didn't have to go scout out a location, get furniture, doing everything virtual. I made it happen on my maternity leave. And now I work very part-time, seeing mostly women in the perinatal period, because going through that myself and seeing postpartum depression and anxiety and just the loneliness of being a parent in today's world and the stress and the standards that we hold ourselves to, we're all trying to reparent ourselves and heal our generational trauma. And especially when you add race to the layer, it's great work. So I'm really, I finally found myself here, 2 kids, part-time private practice, a little bit of that Disneyland work on the side.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
So how did you get involved with doing the EAP? Not necessarily Disney, but how did you get involved with all of that?
That's a great question. And, shout out to my previous group practice owner who told me, she's like, you know what, if you want more clients, just email some big companies and let them know, hey, this is who I am, just a little bit about me, this is the population I serve, this is my fee, or this is my insurance I accept. And, feel free to send your employees my way. So I'm thinking that I'm just reaching out to Disney in my case, or, you could do this for Google, Facebook, Amazon, whatever big companies in your neighborhood or in your state, if you're virtual. And I just reached out to them, the HR people. And then they actually said, wait, we would like to bring you on site, very, very part-time. They pay what they pay and it's guaranteed hours, and we want to provide free therapy to our employees. And so if we just have you on site for them, that's easy. So that's how it happened.
So do you have a therapy office at Disneyland, or where do you?
My office is right behind Space Mountain.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Yeah. So is it set up like a therapy office?
Uh-huh.
That is great. So funny.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, what a unique setup. And then I think also a real testament to networking. I think so often people will ask me, how do I get involved in EAP? I've Googled it. I can't find the application. And I'm like, oftentimes there's no application, often you're just emailing someone. That's amazing. Well, then your kids love Disney, right?
Well,
so that's
we're
great.
a Disney family.
And I like what you said also about and I remember this, you starting your private practice during maternity leave, 2 months postpartum, because I think so often as moms, we think oh, I'm going to go into this postpartum dark hole and I'm never going to be able to run a business, or I'm never going to be able, and that I actually found early motherhood, you're right. You don't have time, but you have time. Do you know what I mean? Your kid does
you're
nap,
tired. It
nuts,
worked out great.
dude.
And I see this all the time. I see people saying what am I going to do with my clients when I go on maternity leave? Am I going to have to start all over? And it's no, mostly no. You tell your clients, a little bit ahead of time when it's appropriate. A few months out, you provide them with backup therapists for while you're gone, especially if it's a high risk or a high needs client and they want to continue their weekly therapy or whatever it is. You set them up, you do the warm handoff with another therapist.
Right.
But for my case, I had a lot of clients that were you know what? I'll try 2-3 months off. Like, let's see. And thank you for the referrals. Thank you for the backup plan. But I'd like to come back to you when you're back. You know, it was like a little summer vacation for them. So I got a lot of my clients back. And again, very part-time. I worked 2 days a week and it wasn't too much. You know, definitely don't push yourself. If you want to give yourself more time off, do that. But I love that balance of still feeling like this, you know, identity of a therapist and having adult conversations and, you know, not just talking about like diapers and nursing and tantrums all the time. Like or let me use my personal experience to help other moms who are in this too. So I think that taking a maternity leave is totally doable. Working, you know, with young ones, if you have good childcare set up, is really doable and really empowering for me personally.
Yeah. And I like what you said too about like, you get to have some adult conversation. I mean, I think we forget. I can remember those early postpartum months of being like, I need to talk to somebody who talks, you know?
Yes. I was outside. We're so lucky. We just hang out in our front yard all the time and we love our neighbors and stuff. Orange County for you. And a woman was walking by with her baby and I hadn't really met her. I had seen her a little bit. So we just got to chatting, introduced ourselves, and she's just asking me about teething. And I just gave her, I was like, oh, put some frozen pineapple in a mesh teether and there you go. Like, that's what I did. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you. Like, so many people are just kind of like, oh yeah, good luck, or it's hard, you know, like, she was just so grateful to like actually have a mutual conversation with some real advice and support and validation. And, you know, I think that that's what a lot of people are looking for at that stage of their life.
Oh my gosh, I think completely. And, you know, I completely agree. And I think it's so cool. And that's why your specialty is so cool with working with moms and perinatal mental health. And I mean, it's it's obviously an area that's really close to my heart, being a young mom. So I think that's huge. And, you know, one thing you've said a couple times as we've talked is like this idea that like your practice is very part-time. So 2 days a week, 8 clients, private practice or around there, and then some EAP clients. But I would say like since working in private practice, like most days, even when I was full-time, I worked 3 days a week. You know, like a full is different for everyone. And 8, it's still not like, that's still a lot of work, you know, 8 clients a week is still a lot of clients, you know? So I think sometimes we like sell ourselves short as moms. We're like, oh, I'm only working like 8 hours a week. But then it's like, you have got to call their doctor and call their pediatrician. Then you go to the EAP and then you have 2 kids. I mean, it's like a lot, Jess.
Yes, you're trying to do pickup. You're like, what happens when they're sick? And you have to reschedule people or call in the backup babysitter. Like, yeah, no, I'm constantly on. And thank you for that. I appreciate that. Like, as a parent, you are constantly on. Even when you're on vacation, you're checking in with the grandparents or whoever's with your kids, if you know, or you're taking the kids on vacation with you, and that's not a vacation, that's a work trip. So yeah, it's so rewarding, but it is constant. And that's what I think my clients love to hear is like, oh, I'm not like a bad parent for like desiring a night away or like for being so overstimulated, you know? And I was just talking with a friend this morning. She's like, man, like, why is this so hard? I was like, it's never ending. It's constant. It's a lot of responsibility. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and community therapy is so helpful in just validating everything that we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, even like you're saying with the other mom walking in the community, like you telling her one mom hack. You know, I mean, those conversations matter when you're home with the baby and you feel alone, and maybe you talk to a therapist. The whole kind of community matters. So we could probably do a whole other episode on perinatal mental health. But, you know, we probably better kind of start to wrap up. And my question for you, Jess, is what do you wish you had known back then? Like when we first met each other, when we were in grad school, you used to eat Nutella with strawberries. It's always my memory of you in grad school.
Oh my gosh, I love Nutella with strawberries. I still eat that on either toast or ice cream.
Yes, you like would come in the morning and I would have like been rushing and had like some dumb breakfast that I didn't like. And then you would like sit down in class and you had like Nutella and strawberry toast. And I was like, who the hell? Like, I want that shit. Anyway,
sweet tooth. That's funny.
It's like, great, dude. I wish I had it right now. So what would you have told Jess then? Like, what do you wish you had known earlier in your career?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question. I think I would tell her, take a deep breath. It's going to work out. You're going to pay off these student loans.
Yeah.
You know, like, you are here for a reason. You're not just the diversity hire.
Yeah.
You matter. You're going to do good work. It's okay that right now you're young and you're nervous and you're overwhelmed by the student loans and you're overwhelmed by the 3,000 hours. And like, will I actually help clients? Do I actually have anything to say? I was so worried about, like, am I asking them the right questions? You know, am I gathering the right info? Like, I would just say, take a deep breath, let it flow. You matter. You're here for a reason. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. I agree. Thank you, Jess, so much for coming on. And thank you for your friendship through all the,
Well, thank you.
There were so many times I was thinking, even we didn't even talk about this on this podcast, but like after grad school, we had a group of friends that met once a month. I think it was once a month.
Yeah, we get together for dinner or little consults. Yeah.
And just like talk about pre-licensure. And I really encourage people to do that. If like, try to stick with the people that are in your network. It makes a huge difference, So
yes. And even once you're licensed, keep doing those consultations and checking in with your therapist friends. It's really helpful and such a blessing. Yeah.
I agree. Thanks, Jess.
Ask Kelly Anything is just around the corner. But first, a word from our sponsor. Stay tuned for Kelly's response to your private practice questions.
Therapists, do you want more clients at your full cash rate? Mentaya is a platform that navigates out-of-network benefits for clients. They get clients on average 70% back on therapy by filing claims and chasing down insurance companies. They handle literally everything so that you can focus on what matters. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and get 1 month free using the code PRO.
I can't wait to get into today's question for Ask Kelly Anything. So here it goes. I'm going to play the message.
Hi there. So I am a pre-licensed therapist. I'm currently at a non-for-profit community mental health clinic for internship. Lots of my clients have stated that they'd like to stay seeing me in my next rotation for postdoc. And currently, they're paying almost nothing for these sessions. And next year I'm going to go into private practice where the lowest would be like $150 per session. So obviously they're not going to be able to manage that and be able to see me next year. However, after postdoc, I am going into my own private practice, going to stay in the same state probably forever. So I would like to keep these clients as contacts for when I do go into private practice and I need to kind of build that caseload. I am going to kind of have some sliding scale slots for them. So any tips on how I can keep these people as a contact without kind of breaking any ethics or anything like that? Kind of contemplated creating a professional email and keeping in contact potentially that way when I do go on and get licensed. But just curious if you had any thoughts. Thanks.
All right. This is a good question that we haven't answered on the podcast before. So let's go for it. So this person, I think, is saying they're working at a community mental health center now. They are going to leave and do probably a year-long postdoc. And then after that postdoc, open their own private practice. And they're wondering if there's a way to keep in touch with clients. However, those clients might not be able to afford their fee once they get licensed and have this private practice. So I have a few thoughts on this. The first thing I would say is, yes, there is a way to do this. And the way I would probably suggest doing this is just telling the clients, I'm going into a postdoc next year, so I'm not going to be able to see clients then. I will have my own private practice at some point. If you'd like to give me your email, I can put you on my private practice mailing list. So when I start my private practice, you'll get an email telling you about the details of that private practice. And then you would just ask for their email. And then in a few years, couple years, when you open your new private practice, you could include them in that newsletter. Besides that, besides just including them in a newsletter, I personally would not suggest kind of staying in contact by email over, personal emails or anything like that. If clients are in a community mental health setting and they are being seen currently, more than likely they're going to need to be seen during that year when you're doing postdoc, and more than likely they're going to want to stay within the ecosystem that they're in, because that ecosystem of the community mental health organization maybe takes their insurance, maybe provides them low-fee services, and you just don't know how many spots you're going to have available, where you're going to be, where your office is going to be, and whether it's going to be a good fit for them. So I would just really suggest trusting in yourself that you're going to be able to fill this practice, even if no one from your current site follows you, right? So you can send them a group email or a newsletter email saying, I've opened my private practice. I have a few sliding scale spots. Here's kind of my criteria for sliding scale, and here's how to apply. But beyond that, I wouldn't keep in contact. I think it makes for some messy boundaries and potential dual relationships, and might not be in the best interest of the client to wait for a year and then maybe see you in private practice. So I would go the newsletter route and kind of see how that goes, and have faith in yourself that you're going to be able to build this private practice regardless of whether you have clients follow you or not. I hope this helps, and I will talk to you all next time.
If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelly Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now, and make sure to write it down. Here it is: 805-243-8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.